New tonight, exclusive reporting from MS Now. Donald Trump is considering removing one of his most loyal supporters, FBI Director Kash Patel, in the coming months, as he and his top aides have grown increasingly frustrated by the unflattering headlines Patel has recently generated. Headlines like this one from MS Now. The Kash Patel's girlfriend received an FBI security detail, and a separate report alleging he chartered a government jet for a date night. Laura, I know that you have some reporting on this. You were on the byline on this. Tell us more.
Yes, so multiple sources told me, Carol Leonnig, Ken Dilanian, that the president is considering removing Kash Patel from his position as FBI director and also considering potentially replacing him with Andrew Bailey, who is the current co-deputy director of the FBI, the former attorney general in Missouri. And so what essentially we heard from sources was that the frustration has only grown, especially around, as you laid out, Alicia, the use of a private jet to go see his girlfriend, which is paid for on taxpayer dollars, as well as that security detail. That just is the latest, adding to, handling of investigations, be it the Charlie Kirk killing investigation, as well as others. But this seems to have really upset the administration, upset President Trump and those around him. And when I asked the White House about it earlier today, about our reporting, they didn't deny it. They said that Kash Patel was a critical part of the team. And then, of course, the president came out later praising Patel. So this is something that we are obviously tracking closely, but our sources say that the president is considering this ouster right now.
Let's talk about what that means for the FBI and for national security with Democratic Congressman Dan Goldman of New York. He is a member of the House Judiciary Committee.
Congressman, welcome. What do you think of this particular machination within the administration, given everything else that's going on, the seemingly pile of crap they do accept and seem to not care or concern themselves about? But with Patel, there seems to have struck a nerve. Now, I think this is more of a warning shot, perhaps, for Patel across his bow to say, straighten up, fly right. But how do you see it?
Well, I think it's pretty clear that the only grifting that is allowed in the Trump administration is by Donald Trump himself. That when others are doing it and getting bad headlines, then they're on the outs. And of course, the reality is it reveals so much, right? Which is based on Laura and Ken and Carol's reporting. If you are getting bad headlines about your security detail for your girlfriend or private jets for date night, or you have spoken too flippantly and publicly about a Charlie Kirk investigation, which he did, that is grounds to get you removed. But if you are completely ruining the FBI, if you are undermining all credibility for every single criminal investigation, if you are making our homeland a lot less safe because now our foreign allies are not sharing information with us, if you are firing people based on loyalty tests, that's okay. That's okay. It's only if you're getting bad headlines about the misuse of a plane. And I think that reveals probably as much as we need to know.
I want to just pull up this tweet from Caroline Levitt, who says that the MS Now story is completely made up. She says, do not believe the fake news. So thank you, Laura Barron Lopez, for your incredible reporting. Here is the president of the United States. He actually took the opportunity of the Turkey pardoning to shout out Kash Patel. Take a listen.
FBI Director Kash Patel has been very busy and doing a great job. Also, thank you, Kash. Along with members of, see, you got a following, Kash.
Okay, I thought that moment was a tell, right? This Kash Patel has never, on merit, been anyone's pick for FBI director. He does not have the qualifications, the expertise. What he had was a following in MAGAland, and Donald Trump was capitalizing on that. I think it is almost a miracle that Kash Patel has lasted as long as he has in this position, given the series of missteps. And I think we are extraordinarily lucky as Americans that we have yet to see the repercussions writ large vis-a-vis national security of having someone so wildly incompetent, right? Like, this isn't actually about the headlines he's generating. It's about the fact that this is an institution that's supposed to protect and serve, and that is not what they have been focused on doing.
No, I mean, Kash Patel was installed because Donald Trump wanted a lackey who would do his bidding at the top of the FBI. When you look at all of his cabinet picks, there are ones that he clearly felt like he owed, like Bobby Kennedy. There are legitimate ones at the time, Doug Burgum, Marco Rubio. And he then had ones that you could put to the side and say, okay, we could agree to disagree on policy, but they're qualified. Then you have Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, Tulsi Gabbard. These are the three at the top of our entire criminal justice system and our intelligence system. And those are the things that went after Donald Trump in his first term, and that's who his vendetta was against when he took over. So Kash basically got to that job because he was the #1 pusher of this Epstein files conspiracy. Then he went dead silent, and now his utility is really lost because Trump has done most of the damage that he wanted to do, other than, going after some more of his political enemies, which I'm sure he will.
Congressman, there's an interesting sequence of events going on, which is that our story runs about Kash Patel potentially being ousted from his position the same day, if not within the same bit of hours, that the FBI is saying that they want to question these lawmakers for the video where they said that that military members have an oath to not obey unlawful orders. And already there are some Republicans who have pushed back on these investigations, on these attacks. Just this evening, Lisa Murkowski, the senator from Alaska, a Republican, defending Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona, saying that accusing him and other lawmakers of treason and sedition for rightfully pointing out that service members can refuse illegal orders is reckless and flat out wrong. But I want to ask you, Congressman, have you talked to any of these colleagues of yours? And this has clearly launched lawmakers like Senator Mark Kelly, into a back and forth, into a debate about patriotism and about the oath that military members swear. Why did these lawmakers, your colleagues, decide to do this now? Why pick this fight with the president?
Well, I think we're on a theme tonight, which is only in the lawless Trump administration could it be a criminal act to tell somebody to follow the law. And that's what these 6 of my colleagues did, is they reminded the military that they have more of an obligation to the Constitution than they do to the president. That is what the law is. There is nothing that they said that amounts to anything wrong, period. Forget about criminal or treasonous or anything along those lines. But I think what Donald Trump is missing here, and the reason why I'm very proud my colleagues continue to stand up for what they said, to stand up for the Constitution, as 6 members of the military and the national security apparatus who have taken that exact same oath, is that it is bringing the conversation back to what Americans, all Americans, military officials or military Americans, every American has to recognize that just because Donald Trump says something or says to do something out loud does not mean it's okay. You cannot follow orders to break the law or violate the Constitution. And this is something that Pete Hegseth should remember, because if Donald Trump starts sending more of the military into our cities, that is a violation of the Constitution. That is a violation of the law. Kash Patel should remember that. And maybe today, I know the turkeys were pardoned. Maybe Donald Trump ought to give another turkey, Kash Patel, a pardon on his way out of the office.
Here's where we are heading into the holidays. Donald Trump in the midst of what is clearly, measurably, the worst month of his second term. And usually presidents face this kind of hell month later in the term. So it's bad news coming earlier than usual, which is also bad news, as there are cries of a lame duck presidency. Consider within the last day, Trump's revenge cases completely blowing up. And remember, this is not like they made it to trial and James Comey found sympathetic jurors. This is not like they made it to jury selection and something changed. This, by any legal timeline, was a fast failure. And if you're counting, I've mentioned this in our coverage, there have now been 3 losses for Trump, 3 cases against foes, his perceived foes, that have completely fallen apart, and 0 wins. New polls show anger over prices, Americans more upset than the end of Biden's term. Trump's job approval crashing to record lows. As you see, it stacks up on the screen. But we're not done. We are in the middle of this month. Trump also faced that humiliating defeat with both parties telling him to stop hiding the sex traffickers' files. Some people in politics allege maybe Trump was involved, and early emails have him at least mentioned. Others say maybe he's not involved. But in this polarized moment, we had this rare unity where they all came together in Congress and said, enough. Release the sex traffickers' files. Some people say they don't even want to know why Trump seems so intent on hiding them. And that means a deadline is now looming, stretching through this month into next, for Donald Trump's terrible November to comply. More Republicans defecting, some threatening to leave Congress. And if you go back 3 weeks, Trump lost when the Democrats had that election sweep. And that's how this hell month began for the president. You stack it all up, and even in these busy times with a million phone alerts, and what you see on your screen is overwhelming. Imagine if you were the politician at the center of all that. And those election wins or losses for Trump and his party, that was 3 weeks ago tonight. Though honestly, I don't know about you, could feel like a lot longer. And for Trump and his White House and the Republican Party, we know they think it's been a lot longer because they have been bruised every week since then. When you're dealt with bad news like that in politics, we all know the drill. You try to rebound, move on to something else. But all they've moved on to are defeats that in some ways were more robust, or at least involved more states, more representatives of more people in the Congress going after him on Epstein than the multi-state loss they suffered 3 weeks ago tonight. MAGA voices are not all denying this reality at this point. There are plenty of Trump defenders. We hear a lot about the loyalists, but a varied group of voices, including in our evolving digital media, right? You've got the live TV news, you got stuff on YouTube that includes traditional and new media, you got podcasts, you got social media. And so across this wider media audience, maybe in distinction from a place like Fox News, some voices with large audiences who are largely MAGA or MAGA curious, they see what's happening. They are facing the music even if Trump isn't. That includes the comedians, the podcasts, and even Fox vet Tucker.
And the Republican Party, which is almost to the point where it's just useless, and I'm going to have to oppose it because I hate them too much, but because they're such betrayers.
It certainly seems that he doesn't want these documents to come out because he himself will suffer some fallout.
Nothing I voted for happened. What about you? Are you happy with anything?
I mean, it sounds like a political wake. And because their audiences, especially Tucker, still include plenty of people who are conservative or Republican adjacent or MAGA, and labels can be simplistic, but you'll notice there's a tone there. They don't necessarily go directly at Trump and say, boy, he messed this all up. He had a good hand a year ago, and it seems like he blew it, spent the political capital quickly, and is still messed up on Epstein. They don't necessarily word it all that way, but that's not positive messaging, what you just heard, obviously, for Trump's Republican Party going into a midterms where Tucker's audience either is going to pull the lever for Republicans or hand the Congress over to Trump's opponents, the Democrats. Take another example, Michael Savage, conservative radio host. He was OG MAGA. He endorsed Trump early in 2016. In the first term, you could find him in the Oval Office. Here's Savage now.
I think the American worker right now is hurting badly. I think the economy is in the no matter what the Trump administration might want to be selling or telling us. The prices are too high, inflation is too high, jobs are not here for the people who work for them, and they're being shafted primarily in the tech industry.
Straight up, and he mentions tech. While Trump, who campaigned on a so-called populism and lowering prices, has done Very little on that agenda, but is cozying up to the tech elites as they all get richer and do crypto, etc. Tech's doing well. Here's the top line. When you look at a stock market graph, what you see there, first is the blue line, huge growth for the top 500 companies when you include tech. But if you take out what they call those 7 tech companies, Zuckerberg's Meta, Bezos's Amazon, if you exclude those, you get this. A lot lower. Now you might say, gosh, Ari, you don't usually make us do this much math. What Michael Savage just said, what people are feeling out in the real economy is that red line, which is pretty flat. That's the 400 largest companies in the U.S. absent Trump's tech friends. It's a different picture. It's a different reality. It's economic risk. It's concern about the economy, let alone potentially a souring economy, which we know changes people's patience for a president, any president, or any stumbles. But you could ask Jimmy Carter, you can ask Joe Biden at the end of his term. When people are upset about the economy, the chart I just showed you, the real economy flat, and a lot of risk out there, we don't know what's going to happen, they have less patience for these games. Then take this quote. Congress has been, quote, sidelined by the current GOP speaker with obedience from the Trump White House and betraying the American people. That's from the right. Another Republican says the White House team has treated members like garbage. The arrogance of this Trump White House team is, quote, off-putting to members who are run roughshod and threatened. More explosive early resignations are coming. This source tells Punchbowl's newsletter it's a tinderbox, morale never lower. Johnson will be stripped of his gavel. They will lose the majority before this term is out. Now, that is what they call a blind quote or warning. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but there are at least some people in the Congress who feel that way. And remember, they can only lose 2 votes among the Republicans. So if that's a real quote, right? Punchbowl says that's a real one. You add another 1 or 2, and before you know it, you could have a Matt Gaetz-style rebellion, which, remember, is what displaced Mr. McCarthy, who I just showed you, trying to remind people how tenuous their power is.
Critics of Donald Trump argue he's entirely disinterested in getting results to the American people. That's not entirely fair. You see, in his attempt to be an all-powerful God King of America, Trump has appointed himself as a kind of minister of culture for the country. Today, we got a huge new development on that front related to the president's favorite buddy cop film franchise. Trump is bringing Rush Hour back. You remember Rush Hour, right? The late 90s, early aughts action comedy trilogy. It's been dormant for about 20 years now, both because of changing cultural mores and also in large part because the series director, a guy named Brett Ratner, has been a Hollywood pariah for nearly a decade. During the Me Too moment, Ratner was accused of half dozen instances of sexual harassment or misconduct, which he denies. Lately, he's been plotting his comeback tour, first by directing the documentary on First Lady Melania Trump that Jeff Bezos paid $40 million for. Remember that one? And now by shopping around Rush Hour 4. Thanks to some great reporting by Semaphore and Puck, we know that Trump personally lobbied for a deal and that Paramount, under control of the Trump-friendly Ellison family, will distribute the film. So, promises made, promises kept. Michelle Goldberg is an opinion columnist for New York Times. Alex Wagner is an MS Now senior political analyst, the host of Crooked Media's Runaway Country podcast. They join me now. A missed opportunity in 2024 to make this a central campaign plank. If you elect me, I'm bringing back Rush Hour. But I just think, there's so much horror in the news around Donald Trump. But what a perfect Donald Trump story.
Right. And there's also an undercurrent of horror here, too.
Yes,
because
of menace.
This is what happens in authoritarian countries. It reminds me of Kim Jong-il. You often heard Trump kind of expressing his envy for the leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-il's son, that he wishes they salute me. Well,
people stand at attention.
Yes, they also in North Korea, make movies to the dictator's specifications. Kim Jong-il was famous for kidnapping a famous actress and director and forcing them to make movies until they were able to escape. I also keep thinking, Donald Trump kind of wanted to go into Hollywood at some point.
Yes.
And how much better his life would have
Everyone's
been.
life.
How much better our lives would have been if just, that sliding doors moment had gone the other way.
Absolutely, Alex. I mean, I have to note, Alex, I'm not going to ask you to give me a rundown on what you think the plot should be here, or give me some script notes. But Jackie Chan is 71 years old. This is Matt Belloni writing on it in Puck. He says, few studio heads would want to stand next to Ratner on a red carpet, no matter the potential money to be made by the film. Even that's a big question. Tucker hasn't headlined a studio movie since Rush Hour 3 in 2007. Chan is now 71. Plus, the onerous terms, basically the onerous terms of the deal that means that whoever does it is going to have a terrible time. And yet, this is what it means to have your family buddy running one of the big media conglomerates in America.
Yeah, I mean, if you are one of those poor Americans that can't afford groceries, health insurance, a roof over your head, or electricity, yes, at least you have the prospect of Rush Hour 4 coming in 2028. I don't know. I mean, I think it's twofold in purpose. One is to own the libs, right, by bringing back a retrograde version of Manhood and a probably sort of latently, if not explicitly, racially uncomfortable, if not racist movie that belongs in the 90s and not in, I don't know, the 2020s. But the other piece, I think, is a bid for Trump to control culture. And, yes, in the authoritarian sense, but also the right has been desperate to get into Hollywood forever, right? I mean, that's why, Steven Seagal and Meatloaf and Kid Rock were the celebrities they trotted out, because they were just grasping at some kind of cultural relevance. And I think 2024 with the Manosphere and Maha Moms, they felt like, oh, we can be in the zeitgeist. We can do this too. Yeah. This can be our victory. And this is Trump's pathetic version of trying to be culturally relevant, is to pull the strings like a bad version of Geppetto with Larry Ellison, Jackie Chan, and Chris Tucker as Pinocchios. I don't know. Sorry, it's a ham-handed metaphor.
I also love imagining when the green light notice got sent to Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker. Are they on board? Do they want to make this film?
Do they have a choice?
Do they have a choice? Exactly. per your earlier example. This is a headline in the New York Times today, which the photo that's attached to it, everyone has been cracking up at. Shorter days, signs of fatigue. Trump faces realities of aging in office. It basically just, in a really rigorous way, in fact, down to documenting how many fewer appearances he's doing, is just tracking the fact, Michelle, that we know the presidency ages people. We saw with Joe Biden that if you're rather advanced in age when you start, it's going to age you more. And now here we are 10 months in, and boy, does it look like it's doing that again.
It does, although I think that, the presidency in the past has aged Trump less than other people.
Yes,
he doesn't do that much. If you're sort of making movies and decorating and playing a lot of golf, it's probably a different experience than if you're working very hard.
Yes.
At this, and I get sometimes people are really angry. How come you're not, talking about Donald Trump's age the way you were talking about Joe Biden's age? And to me, there's an element of such bad food, such small portions.
Yes.
If Donald Trump is working less and is a little less engaged, in some cases, I guess it's a bad thing only because of his underlings.
Right, the vacuum it creates for the Stephen Millers of the world.
Yes, exactly. But it's not as if a kind of highly engaged, dynamic Trump is necessarily a better Trump.
No, but I do think, Alex, the politics, I do think the moment when he's asleep, fully asleep during a live event, fully, and it's actually as relatable as I've ever found him, because he looks very peaceful and very calm and very quiet in the way a baby sleeps. But I do think, he called him Sleepy Joe Biden for a reason. It was obviously an advantage to him in the 2024 election. It is clear to me now that this is a real political issue for them, among a constellation of political issues they now face.
Yeah, I will say, I guess sleeping Trump is maybe marginally better than awake Trump, except for the fact
that's
that
the question,
the entire edifice of the Republican Party is built upon what Trump wants, and nobody really knows what that is other than Trump. So there is a sense of sort of I don't know, runaway country, even more so than normal, if the figurehead atop this thing is not even literally conscious. So I think it's problematic for governance generally, and certainly for the Republican Party. I think it's a problem. They're directionless without him. He's not going to be president in 2028. I will say that again and again and again as publicly as I can. But what does that mean for actually the day-to-day running of the government? What does that mean for their priorities? And how do they disguise the aging of a man who already seems so unhinged 10 years ago, right? His behavior has been erratic for so long. His physical health has been hugely up for debate. And look at what we're playing right now. This is not a person who acted normal back in the normal times.
Right.
So I do worry about the dawn of really increased senility and what that means for the body politic.
Yes, and who's controlling things when, if and when he is checked out, or when he's just resting his eyes while he dreams up new buddy comedies? Michelle Goldberg and Alex Wagner. Thank you both. We'll be right back.
Joining us, MS Now White House reporter Jake Traylor, who had that healthcare news first. MS Now congressional reporter Michael Schnell, Punchbowl News co-founder and MS Now political contributor Jake Sherman, and former press secretary to former House Speakers Paul Ryan and John Boehner, Brendan Buck. He's also an MS Now political analyst. Jake Sherman, tell me what Republicans want.
Well, they don't want to extend these subsidies for the most part. I mean, Speaker Johnson has been abundantly clear about that. We could argue, and I would argue that it would be politically advantageous for them to follow the president's lead here and just say, okay, we're going to extend it for 2 years. We're going to come up with a plan. But this is an anathema to House Republicans. And to be honest with you, I think the White House was a little bit ahead of its skis. I mean, I can't imagine they'd be so ham-handed to release a plan on a Monday or a Tuesday of a Thanksgiving week when most members of Congress are tuned out. So what they want is what they've wanted for years. They want to expand health savings accounts. They want to create pools for companies small businesses to buy insurance. They want to do things that they've been talking about since 2010. There's not much innovation in all of these things. All of these policies are not, even the totality of them, individually and the totality of them, are not nearly as expansive as Obamacare. So you could argue about whether you like Obamacare or you don't, whether it's been effective or whether it has not. But that does not mean that what Republicans are planning on putting forth or could pass or believe in, it's just not nearly as expansive and as all-encompassing as Obamacare has been.
So that couple that we just played a moment ago from Oregon that Ron Wyden posted, they also, Michael, testified, the husband testified in front of Congress to talk about those crazy high healthcare spikes that they're experiencing, from $400 a month to $2,400 a month. That is insane. But it's not just them that are experiencing that. Democrats are really trying to focus in on this issue. They tried to focus in on it during the shutdown. Mm-hmm. Do they feel like they're going to be able to change things? Are they able to sell to the American public that if you put us back into the majority, we can get these extensions back?
I think it's more that Democrats right now are saying that if these subsidies don't get extended and your health care premiums go up by a number, a high percentage, that the reason why that's going to be is because of Republicans. That's the message that they're running on. That's the message that we heard all throughout the shutdown. Essentially them saying Republicans have full control in Washington. Now, of course, we know the filibuster in the Senate prevents unilateral action on most things. But that's sort of the message that they've been running with. And to counter to that would be that if you elect us to get into office, then we would sort of address this windfall that we're very possibly going to see at the end of the month. It's a question, though, of if that message will be salient among voters. I've spoken to a number of Democrats and Democratic strategists who say that they're hopeful that if they make it into an affordability message, healthcare and affordability, saying, well, we are going to be the ones that can help you pay for your healthcare in an easier fashion, that will be solidified with among voters, because we know affordability has been so front and center. But the real question is going to be, will this message be salient among voters? Democrats certainly think it will be, because they're running with it.
Well, we've been here before, Brendan. You know very well. We have been in this not exact situation, but a very similar one, where Republicans tried to get rid of Obamacare, failed. Democrats touted that, and Democrats came charging back into power in Congress in the midterms of Donald Trump's first presidency.
Yeah, that's right. And Katie, as you know, I work on this issue on the ACA tax credits in my day job, so I always want to disclose that. Yeah, look, healthcare is as powerful a political issue as there can be. We lost the House in 2018 largely over healthcare. But Democrats lost the House in 2010 over Obamacare passing. Bill Clinton lost the House over trying to do something on healthcare. Anytime you touch healthcare, it gets really personal for people, and they're gonna vote on that, and we've seen that. And I think what you saw from the White House this week was an acknowledgement that this is a big deal, that people are going to notice, and they seem to be wanting to get out ahead of it. Now, what was the response from Congress? Not surprising. they don't like to do hard things in Congress right now, and there's not a lot of muscle memory for doing hard things. And I understand from Mike Johnson's perspective, this is probably unpopular in his conference. But when you're the speaker, you sometimes have to weigh those things. This is unpopular with most of my members, but it also may be important for keeping my majority. So, that's the calculation that he has to make. When we did Obamacare repeal and replace in 2017, that was pretty unpopular. But it was also something our members had demanded that we do. And that's the balancing act that you always have to work on as a speaker.
What I don't understand is if it's so unpopular, and the numbers show repeatedly it's unpopular with the vast majority of Americans. It's unpopular even among some of their constituencies. I mean, if you look at the map of who takes advantage of the ACA, a lot of the red states are the ones that take most advantage. Look at Texas. I mean, these are people who have red states or Republican lawmakers representing them. I do not understand when it is such an unpopular position to repeal health care, to take it away, to make it more expensive. Jake, why Republicans are so unwilling to get on board with health care. It's a fundamental, I guess, disagreement they have with the concept of it, but what are you there in Congress to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair assessment of it, Katie. At the end of the day, we've seen time and time again, and Brendan alluded to this, that Congress doesn't oftentimes do things that are popular and oftentimes does not do things that are popular because that they are hard. And I think there is kind of a mental block of sorts in helping prop up, which is not the right word, but helping support the ACA, which again has been the law of the land, Katie, for 15 years. 15 years. And they've been unsuccessful in every chance, in every time they've tried to cut away at it. They've made some small tweaks to it over the years, including in Trump's first term, but the core of the law stays the same. Now, the question, this isn't an abstract question. It is November 25th. These credits expire December 31st. We're already seeing reaction in the insurance markets. Like, this is not something where this is not a think tank, Katie. This is a real life situation in which they have to make a decision, and very, very quickly. Because if you look at this from a more macro point of view, they have the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, and that's it. I mean, they don't have Republicans don't have a ton more to run on, and the cost of living and prices are going to be the main driver of this. I mean, who knows what it's going to be, but it has the potential to be the main driver of this election.
I mean, I get that Donald Trump is the head of the party and folks are afraid of being primaried, but at what point are you not actually representing the interests of your constituents? You've given away the power of tariffing to the president of the United States. That's driving prices up. You didn't extend the health care subsidies. That's driving prices up. You don't have a fix. You've long been promising one, but you don't actually have a fix, so prices are going to stay up. It just doesn't make a lot of good government sense unless they're not actually listening to their constituents, but listening to maybe, I don't know, a special interest. Jake, we started this segment by mentioning that this was the reporting that you had first, Jake Traylor. Talk to me about what exactly happened at the White House yesterday, because initially your reporting was that there was going to be, a late afternoon announcement of Donald Trump's plan, and then all of a sudden during the show, that got scuttled.
Katie, I feel like I'm getting gaslit a bit by White House officials here because time and time again I'm speaking with them, asking asking, what is the status of this plan, or the concepts of the plan, or the framework, or whatever the terminology is that we're using here, and it's because you pointed out at the top of the show that it's been over a decade that Donald Trump has promised some version of a better Obamacare, and we've yet to see him deliver on that. To quickly rewind, it was Sunday that White House officials were telling me this plan is happening. It's being announced on Monday. The White House will soon inform Senate Majority Leader Thune and Speaker Johnson and loop them into this. What they obviously did not expect was the tremendous backlash that we saw take place from Republicans. Step two today, now White House officials are telling me a new plan is under works. There will be some components of the initial plan that will be in this next one. But again, they still very much do feel like concepts. I asked Caroline yesterday, right behind me, she spoke to reporters, and I asked her, is it or is not the Obamacare subsidies, are they going to be extended in this version of a plan that we eventually get? This was her response.
I will tell you that healthcare is a topic of discussion that's happening very frequently and robustly inside the West Wing right now. The president's very much involved in these talks, and he's very focused on unveiling a healthcare proposal that will fix the system and will bring down costs for consumers. As for the details of those discussions, I'll let the president speak for himself.
Now, Katie, two White House officials are telling me today Donald Trump very much feels the pressure of everything that we've talked about, that the people that we saw at the top of the show, that tens of millions of Americans are going to see these immense spikes in their premiums. The question I think that is on all of our minds now is, will Donald Trump actually work with a bipartisan Congress to reach some form of a real plan, or will he spring the next one on him like we saw take place yesterday?
Jake, just wait until you start hearing them say, in 2 weeks, there's a plan coming in 2 weeks, which is Donald Trump's crutch
I've heard
when
it.
he actually has no plan whatsoever.